Recording in progress.
Thank you. Good evening. Would the meeting of the Newark City Council please come to order? With that, I'd ask you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, tonight being led by Josh and Mariah Benoon. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For those participating via Zoom, when we get to the item that you want to speak on, please use the raise your hand feature and the city clerk will turn on your microphone to speak at the appropriate time. Comments shall not exceed 5 minutes per speaker and must be consistent with current speaker rules and all applicable laws. Next item is roll call, and let the record show that all members of the City Council are here this evening. Item B is presentations. Item 1, Mr. Benoon.
Yes, good evening, Your Honor, and members of the Council. The first item on tonight's agenda is acceptance of work for the new Civic Center project. Ordinarily, acceptance of public works projects are placed on the consent calendar. However, given the magnitude of this project and its significance in Newark history, I placed this item first on the agenda and asked Mr. Collier to provide the Council with an oral staff report. If I may, Your Honor, given the nature of tonight's proceedings, I'd like to make a few comments before I pass it over to Mr. Collier. This is truly a historic and momentous occasion for our city. Tonight, we celebrate and memorialize the completion of our brand new Civic Center, a decades-long vision that is now finally being realized. From a functional city hall that will allow us to better serve our residents, to a modern police facility with updated crime-fighting technology that will allow us to effectively and safely patrol our city, to a library that will house will undoubtedly improve as a result of the passage of that tax measure. I would like to publicly acknowledge and thank all the city staff members who worked tirelessly on this project over the years. This new Civic Center would not have been completed without their dedication and exemplary work. I will begin by thanking members of the previous administration, which was led by former city manager, Mr. John Becker. And Mr. Becker is here with us this evening. Mr. Becker, your wisdom and strong management skills guided us through this difficult and challenging process. Your leadership and unwavering support of city staff helped make this project so successful, and for that, we are thankful. Former Assistant City Manager, Mr. Terrence Grindal, is also here with us this evening. Mr. Grindal, you were a champion of this project from the beginning. Your land use expertise guided us through the various site options, and you were instrumental in evaluating project cost and financing options, so thank you. Former Police Chief Mike Carroll is not here with us this evening, but we thank him for his numerous hours spent researching modern police facilities and providing that insight to the design of our new police station. While the names of Ms. Hovorka and Chief Anderson and I appear on the monument signs for all three buildings, we are certainly aware that our names would not appear on those plaques but for your guys' collective efforts, so thank you. Other members of the project team are here with us this evening, including our Public Works Director, Mr. Soren Fajot, Project Assistant Roya Gonzalez, and Newark Librarian Joe Stoner. Oh, he moved. Mr. Fajot, there you are. I thank you for your outstanding support on the project team, providing assistance, support, and direction to our building and engineering departments. You are an invaluable team member. Thank you. Ms. Gonzalez, I thank you for your relentless dedication to this project, showing up to work day in and day out, providing support to Mr. Collier and making sure that every detail is correct, and because of you, they are. Mr. Stoner, thank you for working with our Civic Center team and coordinating and leading the Alameda County Library's efforts to design the new library. That building will be heavily utilized by the public, and your efforts are appreciated by us all. Finally, I would like to thank Mr. Collier for his tremendous efforts. Simply put, we would not be here but for your extraordinary efforts. The new Civic Center is the largest capital improvement project in the city's history. During normal times, it would be outstanding to have this project built on time and within budget. To do so during a pandemic is nothing short of phenomenal. We are successful in this endeavor because of your building expertise, your calm and level-headed demeanor, and your exemplary work ethic. These brand new state-of-the-art amenities will serve the public for years to come, and we are forever indebted to you for your dedication and commitment to this project. Your Honor, members of the council, it is no secret that Mr. Collier is retiring at the end of this month. If I may, I'd like to share a bit about his work history with us. Mr. Collier has worked for 51 years as a registered architect, including 17 years of private practice, 10 years with Fresno County, and 24 years of distinguished service with our fine city. He was hired as the chief building inspector in 1997, and in 2005, he was reclassified the chief building official. He became a fixture of our organization throughout the years and supported private development throughout town. He has received many accolades during his career with us, including Pride Awards, as well as being named Employee of the Year back in 2015. Finally, I would be remiss if I failed to mention that the completion of the Civic Center is quite the capstone to such a distinguished career of service. Mr. Collier, it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you and working with you throughout these years. You are a true, humble, dedicated public servant. You served as a role model for all of us at City Hall. You are extremely knowledgeable, practical, gentleman in the truest sense of the word. I speak for all of us at City Hall when I say we will miss your presence, your contributions to our organization, and to our community. I wish you nothing but the best in retirement. And with that in mind, Mr. Collier, would you be so kind as to provide the Newark City Council with your last and final staff report?
Does this thing work? Oh. This electronics, well, Mr. Ben-Nun must have seen my presentation because he covered just about everything. So I'm going to skip most of it. And really want to come down to the technical part that helped make this project so successful. Due to changes in state law at the time, 6 years ago, we were able to use a design-build model to build this facility instead of the old design-bid-build. This model enables cities to select architects and contractors that can provide the best value to the city. The old design-bid-build process obligated cities to take the low bidder, which historically exposed cities to underperforming contractors, poor quality construction, cost overruns, and litigation. This new process we use, the design-build model, comes in 2 steps. The first step is to select an architect that will develop the design and produce documents that will allow the second step to proceed. The second step is the selection of the contractor who with a team, their own architect, will develop the construction drawings, build the project for a set price. Selection of the design-build team is based upon the competence of the contractor, their work history, their capacity to perform the work, price, ability to work well with the owner, and their overall proposal. The price may or may not be the lowest. Fortunately for this project, their price was the lowest, and they were able to do a lot of changes not in the design that you see out there, but in the internal parts, mainly in the police department, that allowed us to put everything, all the police operations in a single building instead of utilizing the old library. So we were able to select the team that was going to do the best job. So this project is now complete, and staff is requesting City Council to accept the contract with Webcor Builders as complete. This project has been hugely successful. As you can see by the slides that have been circulating on the screen, the vision of the new Civic Center has become reality. The design is spectacular, starting with the library that occupies a prominent site location at a major city intersection, and then with a modern and inviting city hall and a police building that is functional for all its operations. And one of the most impressive design features to note is the stained glass from the previous city administration building that brings a piece of Newark history to the new buildings. The decision for this project to be built using design-build method was certainly a contributing factor for its success. It should be noted that the City Civic Center project was built under budget and on time, and this was all done during the pandemic. This is amazing. My experience, I've never seen that, especially a government project. In addition to the City Council, I want to recognize again the Civic Center executive team that provided the guidance and input throughout the 5-year project. That team was made up of city managers David Benoon and John Becker, assistant city managers Linka Havorka and Terrence Grandal, public works directors Soren Frageau, and police chiefs Gina Anderson and Michael Carroll, and administrative analyst Roya Gonzalez. And I want to bring special recognition to Mrs. Gonzalez for her significant and professional day-to-day involvement as a project management team member. Her help was invaluable. And on a personal note, I'd like to say there's not a doubt in my mind that a significant element of the success of this project has been the support of the mayor and this city council. I thank you. I think we all thank you, and now request that your acceptance of the project is completed.
Okay, we have a resolution, and I guess one question I have before is, until we accept this resolution and approve it, you're still going to be an employee, right?
For a little while.
So let's get the resolution out of the way. And, okay, so let's start with that. So we would like to get a motion and a second on adopting the resolution.
Oh, Your Honor, we do need to technically check to see if there's any public comment.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Oh, we technically do need to check if there's any public comment, and I believe this is hybrid
okay.
as well.
Okay, is there anybody in the audience tonight who'd like to speak on this? Okay, is there anybody at home that would like to speak of this, City Clerk Harrington?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay, so we've fulfilled that obligation, so we still have a vote to take, we have a motion to make.
Gladly move the B1 accepting of the final building presentation to the City Council.
Second.
Okay, then
Can it be thirded?
fourth and fifth. Okay, could you please vote? Okay, motion passes.
I was looking for our lights.
Resolution of the City Council of the City of Newark accepting the work with Webcor Construction LPD. For the new Civic Center Project 1188.
Okay. So item 2 is a presentation to Mr. Collier, and before I make that presentation, I would like to say a few words. And first, to thank Mr. Collier and his team for the wonderful job that they have done over the last 2 and some years to present our community with facilities that will last for a long, long time in this community. I think probably the best thing the council did was kind of get out of the way once the location was identified. And I think the council's did excellent work in identifying this Civic Center site as the location for the new buildings. And I just can't see any other decision being made other than that. But once that was made, for the most part, I think we got out of the way and let Ray and his team do their job. And boy, what a job you did. You know, it's just a testament and the dedication and professionalism of all those involved in the construction. And, you know, these facilities, again, are going to be used by our community for years to come. And, you know, it's not enough, I guess, just to present something like this to our community, but it also, we have to thank the voters of Newark for providing the positive vote that allowed for the financing mechanism to be in place to actually pay for this. And when you said that under budget, that is truly amazing in itself for any kind of public works project. And Ray, again, it goes to your professionalism and commitment and dedication to getting the job done. And boy, did you do the job. So with that, I'll ask other council members if they have any comments. Vice Mayor Bucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, I just real quick, I wanted to thank obviously everybody who had a hand in this project and a lot of folks behind the scenes who didn't get named here tonight. And then, you know, obviously I want to congratulate you, Ray, on a job well done and as you head off into retirement. And I would, you know, like to tell folks that obviously this is a big project at the end of Ray's career, but when I got here in 2014, you know, it was a few years before this even started, and I would have regular conversations with Ray about stuff all the time. And, you know, Ray put as much hard work and heart into other projects around the city for people and for the residents of Newark as he did for the city hall and this project. So, Ray, I just want to thank you on behalf of Newark, the folks here, and myself for a job well done. So, and I hope you enjoyed that retirement. You earned it. So.
Okay, anybody else? Councilmember Hannan.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I want to join you and Mr. Benoon in your comments. First of all, I want to thank the residents of Newark. 61% of our residents voted in favor of taxing themselves to build this beautiful Civic Center project. This is a project, as the mayor's mentioned, that will live for the next 50 years, that our community will be extremely proud of. I'm extremely excited about the library. We provide hundreds of services to our residents, especially our kids. And it's such a beautiful location. I'm excited about seeing the projects that will come forward through the new programs that will be initiated in the library. I want to thank the Web Corps and the architect. They brought a project to us that conceptually turned out exactly as we'd hoped it would be. It's a project that is beautiful, and I think our community will be proud in the near future for that. Ray, I want to thank you for your hard work. Typically, when folks kind of get towards the end of their career, they kind of start winding down. You didn't wind down, you wound it up. And you completed a project that you and your family, based on your oversight, can be extremely proud of. And I join my colleagues in thanking all the city staff that participated in this project, because a lot of hard work went into building this project for our community. This is a community project, and you're to be proud of your accomplishments. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Councilmember Collazo.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I want to join my colleagues in thanking everybody, Mr. Collier, and especially you. But I want to tell you, it's not just staff and council members and our residents. people are envious of Newark because of the work that you did for us here. We go to our Zoom meetings and everybody's jealous. But as you know, I work with the public, and as people drive down Thornton Avenue, come to the tortilla factory, what's that beautiful building? It's our new library, our new city hall, our new police department. When they were building and the signs were up, you guys picked a wonderful company. We've worked with them before in our city. So I want to express my gratitude for leaving us here with such a fine establishment for us to do our work, our future work here for our community. And with that, enjoy your retirement.
Okay, and Councilmember Freitas.
Thank you, Your Honor. Esteemed friend, Mr. Ray Collier, I want to thank you, but especially your wife, to allow us to employ you for another 2 years, because as Mr. Banoon said on this speech, he was saying it's over 51 years you've been working for as a public servant. But when you said you will stay for this most magnificent project we did, the most expensive project ever in the city of Newark, I want to thank you for this, for your dedication, for your experience. You make a difference, but like Mr. Banoon used the word, you were extraordinary efforts to succeed with this building, with this project. So, and if I believe we start breaking ground on September 22nd, 2019, and I believe was the last day of construction was September 14, 2021, less than 2 years. So was like the mayor emphasized, for a government job, it's kudos to you and to your leadership. But besides that, we built the Silliman Center, Aquatic Center, and we have that huge problem on the not on the infrastructure, but on the interior, on the painting job. And your leadership there, when you roll up your sleeves and you took over that project, was pretty much like the former mayor used to say, there was yowza, and you did that on that project, and you would, as a compliment. So to your wife, again, thank you to allow us to be here. And just a word to Mrs. Gonsalves to be the backbone for Mr. Collier to run up the red carpet, if you will, for him to be ready to go. Mr. Collier, thank you very much, thank you. But one more thing, it's when you look in the buildings, it's perfect, but when you look into encapsulated or incorporated the old stained glass detached from the new building, it's an outstanding idea, It looks like it's incorporated, but when you look on that, it's apart. So thank you for all that, and the best of the best to you and to yours and your retirement. Well deserved. Thank you.
So I think this may be the only thing left from the old building. And it works. Ray, could you come up here, please?
Like the city clerk.
You know, this is one of those bittersweet moments that we talk about, and luckily they don't happen too often. But when they do, it is a bittersweet time. And you know, the sweet part of it is that you get to relax and be with your family and pursue other things that interest you now. And maybe the bitter part of that is that we're still left here working. But Ray, I have a commendation here for you, which doesn't even adequately describe what you've meant to this community for so many years. But I do want to attempt to read it to you. Whereas Ray Collier has been with the city of Newark in the capacity of chief building official and/or city architect since joining the city of Newark in 1997 and has contributed significantly to the city's growth with the completion of many projects and by ensuring building code compliance for all private development. And whereas Ray Collier is uniquely qualified in his role with the city as a registered architect with more than 51 years of industry experience in both the public and private sector, and was recognized as the city's Employee of the Year in 2015. And whereas Ray Collier, following the passage of Measure GG by the voters of Newark in November of 2016, graciously volunteered to serve as the project manager for this new Civic Center project and immediately began work on the conceptual design for all three new buildings and related site modifications. And whereas Ray Collier utilized his skills, knowledge, and abilities to lead a project management team and to manage every detail of every phase of this $88 million project that included the conceptual design, the design build team selection, the final design, and each construction phase. And whereas Ray Collier, as project manager for the new Civic Center project, has provided a level of expertise and guidance to the city that has been immeasurable, and his relentless dedication to the project and to the city is evidenced by the quality of the state-of-the-art buildings that are now completed and will serve the city well into the future. And whereas Ray Collier, after 24 years of dedicated service, is retiring, now therefore I, Alan L. Nagy, Mayor of the City of Newark, on behalf of the Newark City Council, do hereby commend and thank Ray Collier for his tremendous contributions to the City of Newark and wish him well in his retirement. Ray, I want to present you with that. And I want to thank you very much for the many years of work that you've provided this community. We are grateful for every moment of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to say something?
Thank you. I don't have to press anything, right? No. Okay. My wife Linda and I comment over and over again for the last 20-some years about how I landed so well in this job. I've enjoyed it. I've had opportunities. I've been working for an absolutely incredible council that supports staff here, and it's been amazing. I wouldn't have missed it. I'm glad I didn't, and I'm glad I volunteered. And the big advantage now is we don't have an alarm clock going off in the morning. But thank you.
All right, thank you. There you go, and happy retirement. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ray. Good. Okay, item C is public comment. And I'll ask anybody in the chamber who would like to speak to the council tonight on any item that is not on tonight's agenda. Anybody? Okay, then City Clerk Harrington, is there anybody at home that would like to speak to the council?
There is, Your Honor. Namat Saxena would like to speak.
Okay. Please start.
Namat, you have 5 minutes. Please begin.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you for giving me time to comment this evening. The city center looks amazing, and my family and I can't wait to be able to visit it more often post-COVID. I wanted to take time to comment on 2 agenda items which are up for consent this evening. Agenda item D6, Class 4 bike lanes on Cherry Street, and D8, SB 1383 ordinance, which is organics reduction and recycling. I'd like to thank the Public Works Director, Mr. Soren Fojo, and the city staff for bringing these progressive initiatives forward. D6, Class 4 bike lanes on Cherry Street. As residents of Newark, I think we all understand that our city has a unique DNA. We have a small town feel, but we're set in the middle of Silicon Valley. And bike lanes are perfect for our city, as they will allow families and those who work within the city to get to their homes and businesses very easily, cheaply, and safely. The Cherry Street Class 4 bike lanes will be great not only for residents to get to the future New Park Place, but also to Newark's Skate Park, the Mel Nunes Sports Field, Silliman Center, Ohlone College, as well as employees to get to the Amazon Fulfillment Center and other employers along Cherry Street. So I'd like to commend this start and love that the city planning team would slowly start implementing more of these bike lanes on selective arteries to make our city more accessible to residents of all income levels, not only those of us who are lucky to have cars. On these 8 SB 1383 ordinance, I come from India, and there is a saying in India which roughly translates to, only with every small drop after another drop can you make an ocean. Or another way to think of it is that every drop of water plays a critical role in coming together to build an ocean. So I understand that the agenda item today is to update ordinances, but I hope that the city staff will continue working on this initiative and in the coming months and years, work with Republic Services to make SB 1383 compliant trash cans, similar to those that are available in Fremont, available to Newark residents and businesses. This way, we can all play our part in making the Earth a cleaner and greener planet by separating out our trash correctly at source. With these comments, I'd like to hand it back, and once again, appreciate the time this evening.
Okay, thank you. City Clerk Harrington, is there anybody else that,
No, Your Honor, that concludes it.
okay. Then we will go to item D is consent calendar. Consent calendar consists of 11 items. So let me first ask anybody in the council would like any item pulled from the consent calendar? Okay. Staff?
Not this evening, Your Honor.
Okay. And anybody in the audience would like anything pulled from the consent calendar? Okay, then City Clerk Harrington, anybody at home?
No request, Your Honor.
Pardon me?
No, sir.
No, okay. So the consent calendar will consist of the following items then. D1 is approval of the audited demands. Item D2 is approval of the minutes for the October 7th, 2021 special meeting and the October 14th, 2021 regular meeting. Item D3 is adopt a resolution confirming the continued existence of a local emergency due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Item D4 is adopt a resolution finding that there is a proclaimed state of emergency, finding that the meeting in person would present imminent risk to the health or safety of attendees as a result of the state of emergency, and authorizing continued remote teleconference meetings of the legislative bodies of the City of Newark for the 30-day period beginning October 28th, pursuant to AB 361. Item D5 is approval of a resolution authorizing an amendment to the contractual services agreement with Geocon Consultants Incorporated. Item D6 is adopt a resolution approving the allocation of $453,000 of Measure B and Transportation Fund for Clean Air Funds to the Cherry Street Class 4 Separated Bikeways, project number 1254, and authorizing the city manager to execute a project funding agreement with the Alameda County Transportation Commission. Item D7 is approval of a resolution allocating $43,000 of Measure B Safe Routes to Schools mini-grant program funds to Safe Routes to Schools improvements, project number 1280, and authorizing the city manager to execute a project funding agreement with the Alameda County Transportation Commission. Item D8 is introduction of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Newark adding Chapter 8.40 Organics Reduction and Recycling to the Newark Municipal Code to incorporate an ordinance of the Alameda County Waste Management Authority to reduce the amount of organic and recyclable materials deposited in landfills. Item D9 is adopt a resolution approving an amendment to the 2020-2022 biennial budget and capital improvement plan to delete one full-time equivalent position of Human Resources Manager and add one full-time equivalent position of Human Resource Director. Item D10 is adopt a resolution for approval of classification specification changes to the Communications Supervisor classification. And item D11 is adopt a resolution approving and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Motorola Incorporated for an advanced encryption standard, AES encryption package, including over-the-air rekeying software. Okay. And would somebody like to move that items be approved as presented with all votes of the council?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, would you, oops. Okay, please vote. Okay, motion passes, 5 ayes. Please read.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Newark adding Chapter 8.40 Organics Reduction and Recycling to the Newark Municipal Code to incorporate an ordinance of the Alameda County Water Management Authority to reduce the amount of organic and recyclable materials deposited in landfills.
Okay, and item E is public hearings. And item E.1, Mr. Benoon?
Yes, good evening, Your Honor, members of the council. Item E.1 is a public hearing to consider certain entitlements related to the Timber Senior Affordable Housing Project. This is a 7-unit residential development located on Timber Street. We have several presentations this evening, including a staff presentation as well as a presentation from the project applicant. We're going to go ahead and start with our Deputy Community Development Director, Mr. Artin Terriano. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, City Manager, City Council, Honorable Mayor. Let me just get adjusted here real quick. I think we're good. Yeah. Hang on, I think I'm good. So tonight we have the Timber Street Senior Housing Project. We are glad to present this to you. It's an exciting project for the city of Newark. 100% affordable project doesn't come along often. Tonight we'll review the project. We'll go over the project proposal, applicant presentation, our planning commission recommendation, staff recommendation, and then we'll answer any questions. The project is on a property located on Timber, near Timber and Central Avenue. The applicant is looking to do a 100% affordable project for seniors at the address of 37660 Timber Street. The applicant is requesting approval of general plan amendment, rezoning, conditional use permit, design review application. The property is zoned residential medium density and would be rezoned to residential high density. The image here just illustrates kind of the location context for the project. Along Cedar, there's several developments that have kind of come along lately, beginning with the Timber project, and that was mostly a townhome project. As you see, we have now a proposed project of the Robson homes that we're currently reviewing, and then the Prima project, which is at the curve or the bend of Cedar. The project proposal would provide 88 units, 80 units of affordable housing. As part of the project, because it's a 100% affordable project, there are certain waivers or concessions that are allowed when the project is 100% affordable. What the state density bonus law allows is these concessions, and they're shown here on screen. Most of them are related to setbacks, lot coverage, landscape, and open space. I particularly want to point out the parking. The parking is normally 1 space per unit on these, but it's extremely expensive, and it's not feasible for this project to provide more parking, so they're asking for a reduction that brings it down to 0.7. And as part of being a density bonus law, they're allowed to ask for these concessions, so those are the ones that are highlighted on your screen here. This is fairly new to us. This is the first kind of density project that we have in the city, so just kind of wanted to highlight what the incentive and concessions kind of stand for, what they mean. In these scenarios, they allow the project to reduce certain regulations and development regulations for the project. And so, as stated or shown in the list before, they have a few to make the project work. And there's also a waiver, which is very similar to a concession when you read the definition of it. It's just that the waiver, which apparently are allowed unlimited, are just kind of a barrier that is precluding the project from being developed. With that, we're going to go into the details of the project, and we'll allow the applicant, if you can please come up and give your presentation, and then we'll wrap it up after that.
Me. Good evening. This close? Yes. Okay. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Jared Nolan, and I'm the project manager from Eden Housing, who is working on this project. I'm joined tonight by Andrea Osgood, Senior Vice President of Real Estate Development at Eden Housing, and Rick Williams here, our project architect from Van Meter Williams Pollock. I'm really excited to be presenting this project to you tonight, and I really appreciate you considering it. I'd like to start by thanking staff for all their help over the last year and a half, I guess at this point, Art and Steve, and Mayank before he departed, in addition to all the other city staff who have helped us along the way. So I'll start out by kind of giving a little introduction of Eden Housing and the project, then I'll turn it over to Rick to really dive into the proposal. So first, Eden Housing, we're a nonprofit affordable housing developer. We have 3 departments. We're a developer and owner, in addition to a property manager, and we also provide resident services. We develop to own, so we hold these properties long-term to make sure that they're in great condition over their the entire time they're around. And so we have over 50 years of experience, including 11 properties that we've developed in the Tri-City area of Fremont and Union City, and we're really excited that this will be our first project in Newark. Here's a little sampling of some of our other projects in the area. These 3 are in Fremont, and it's a mixture of senior projects and family projects. And before we dived into the proposal, I kind of wanted to reiterate the real need for senior housing in this area. When we were developing the concept, we did a study to really kind of understand what the need was, and we found that 8.8% of eligible senior households are living in affordable housing, and this is the largest growing age group in the city. And we also know that seniors are some of the most vulnerable to rising prices, often living on fixed income. And we have our own experience. I showed that project in the last slide, Pauline Weaver Senior Apartments in Fremont. And when we opened that 3 years ago, we received over 2,000 applications for that one project that had about 90 units. And then on the right here, I have a little table that shows you the income levels that will be in this project. And we're still kind of refining the exact mix, but we're anticipating that most of the units will be restricted at this 50% area median income level, which has that around $1,200 a month rent. We're also pursuing this local live-work preference for a timber senior that we're working with staff to make sure that Newark residents can take advantage of this project. And so as part of the Measure A1 funding that's coming through the County of Alameda, we need to prepare this displacement study that'll be approved by the county. And it needs to demonstrate that city-level residential displacement is occurring or is at high risk of occurring. And this displacement study needs to be approved by the county before we lease up the building after it's constructed. So we have some time to get that in place, but we're already working on that to make sure that that's something that we can provide. And in addition to that, we will prepare this proactive marketing plan. I've heard that the most recent senior affordable housing project in Newark, there was some cases where Newark residents weren't even necessarily aware that it was being leased up and that units were available. So we'll do a lot of outreach to make sure that Newark residents are aware through targeted social media ads and other flyers and mailings and that sort of thing to make sure that everyone has a chance to apply for this project. So with that, I'll turn it over to Rick to really dive into the proposal. Thank you.
So we've decided that we should all be shorter to speak at this podium. My name is Rick Williams. Thank you very much, Council, Mr. Mayor. Van Meter Williams Pollock has been designing affordable housing for over 30 years now. We've had 20 years of great experience with Eden Housing. We've done multiple developments for Eden Housing, including Cottonwood Place in Fremont, as well as other projects in Lafayette. And I have personal experience. My mother-in-law lives in an Eden Housing affordable senior development, which she never fails to remind me that we designed as well, although she doesn't brag too much to her neighbors. We're really excited about this project. It's a great site. We've got the neighborhood retail adjacent. We've got bus service on Central Avenue and on Cedar, so it's close by. We think it's going to be a great area, which you all have also designated for change to residential developments. The context has been industrial in the past. It is moving towards more and more residential development, and we're excited to be part of that transformation for the community. Some of the strong design inspiration comes from wanting to have a strong corner entry, which includes a forecourt for seating and gathering and a nicely landscaped frontage. It's going to really transform that area. We're undergrounding utilities, and it will really clean up the whole edge of that street frontage and set the tone for the future of that area. Some of the development features, it is along the freeway. We've tried to address the design on all the different sides so it looks good from all different directions. We'll have a sound wall, which will, and the way the C-shaped building will protect the courtyard from I-880. We will have a great street frontage. The building steps back to reduce the mass, and we'll have easy access in and out of the garage for residents, some visitors, as well as drop off along the way as well. There are 79 units altogether. One is an on-site manager's unit. There'll be 65 parking spaces at approximately 0.7 spaces per unit. This is the same parking ratio that we've done successfully on a number of Eden housing, senior housing developments in similar locations in different communities. So we're very confident that this will be an acceptable amount of parking. And we'll also include bike parking, both for visitors that are visiting as well as for residents, as more and more seniors are using bikes to get around. The site plan actually came up fairly simply. We've set the parking garage against the freeway and the back of the retail development, setting it off just enough for maintenance, etc. We have management along the front to provide good active street frontage, nice important corner entry, and a side drive so that it's easy for seniors to access the parking and get out onto the street when they are driving. As all these seniors are very active and will be an active part of the community. Here's a view from the corner entry, looking back down the driveway, and you can see glimpses of the courtyard from there. Here's the street frontage along Timber Street. It's all well landscaped, utilities are screened. All of the utilities are now located underground, and there'll be street trees, and we've worked diligently with Public Works, with engineering, and with the fire department to maintain all the access that they desire. We're really excited about the courtyard. It's a relatively large courtyard, actually. On top of the podium, it'll be safe. It'll be protected from both the freeway noise. It'll have great sun access, and the community gardens are a central focal point of all of the senior housing developments. It's really the center of the community, along with active areas for exercise and recreation and gathering. It'll be the focus for the community's gathering spaces, as well as common spaces for indoor activities that spill out into the courtyard. But as I mentioned, we looked at the design of all the different sites, and we actually think that this is actually going to have a nice appearance from the freeway. That is a corridor with bays for seating areas that will, the residents will be able to look out over the freeway to the hills, as well as it provides acoustic treatment for the residents so that there isn't loud noises coming from the freeway into the residents. And it actually becomes a very interesting lit area at night and will be a nice asset along the way. But the interiors are really special. We have a two-story lobby with stairs up, because people will use the stairs up one floor, lit corridors, community rooms, and other gathering spaces really are meant to create an active community for the seniors, and are all really quality spaces that are well maintained over time. And the residential units themselves are specially designed. They all are, because all are accessed by elevator, they're all designed for accessibility, so that folks can live there for a really long time. They're adaptable. Some will have roll-in showers, and they all have full kitchens, quality kitchens, ample cooking and storage space for the residents, and the bathrooms are also all accessible with built-in for tubs and showers or roll-in showers. Will all have their handrails and extra space for those that need it within the bathrooms. So they're of ample size and well appointed. We really appreciate the opportunity to present this project to the community, and think it'll be an asset for all the residents, but particularly the seniors in your community for a very, very long time. If you have any questions, we'd be glad to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
One second.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple more slides.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Turn it off.
Sorry about that. I should have kind of stated that before, that it was a joint presentation. Still getting used to the whole speaking in public now. Got to relearn it. Okay, so the project is requesting a general plan amendment. Previously, I think I stated 80 units. It's 79 residential units, 78 units, and then 1 manager unit. It's a rezoning from residential medium density to residential high density. The conditional use permit is to allow a building that's greater than 35 feet. Design review, and that's just related to all projects, all new construction. We also did a CEQA analysis for this, a review. We did an initial study. It identified that we had to do a statement of mitigated negative declarations. The slide before you shows kind of the highlighted areas, particular that were more closely reviewed and monitored. And in particular, I'd like to kind of point out that the noise, there's, at least for CEQA related, there was minimal, similar to all of these, it was very minimal impacts, things that could be mitigated through construction, either materials or some kind of screening of some mechanical equipment. In relation to non-CEQA noise related, there is going to be an 18 to 20 foot sound wall along 880. It's going to have vines growing on the freeway side. In regards to interior noise, there's going to be some improvements to, of course, windows relating to SDC ratings and exterior wall materials to meet our city's noise ordinance. The Planning Commission held a meeting on September 28th. They voted to unanimously approve the project, 5-0. They were very supportive of the project and the need of affordable housing in the city. They did have some comments and had some concerns about reducing the parking. And the applicant has kind of stated that the units themselves for affordable housing units like this for seniors, they don't normally require large quantities of parking, and also that they reduce parking demands in time as residents get a little bit older. There was also some comments related to just recommending that the affordability level at 80% AMI, if that could be reduced. And of course, the applicant has stated that, that their goal is to reduce that number, but for now, that is what they're proposing until they can get all the financial commitments for the project, and then they'll see if they can lower that. With that, staff is recommending by resolution that the City Council approve the general plan amendment, rezoning, conditional use permit, and design review applications, as well as adoption of the project mitigated negative declaration related to CEQA. Thank you. That concludes the presentation.
Okay. So, I don't believe I opened the public hearing, did I? Okay. So at this time, I'd open the public hearing on item E.1. Is a public hearing to consider approval of the Timber Senior Affordable Housing Project, an ordinance amending the zoning map from residential medium density to residential high density, and a resolution to adopt a mitigated negative declaration supported by an initial study in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, a conditional use permit and design review to allow a 79-unit residential development. The subject site is zoned RM, residential medium density, and has a general plan use designation of medium density residential. And so at this time, I'd ask if anybody in the audience would like to address the council tonight on item E.1. You want to speak on E.1? Yes, please do.
Hello, City Council members and Honorable Mayor. My name's Jessica, and I actually did submit the letter in support of Timber Street Senior Housing. So I've been in Newark for all of my life, and since I went to school back when Birch Grove Elementary is called Bunker, I would have like fun time playing in the playground with my friends. Newark Junior High, and I recall you were a gym teacher at Newark Memorial.
He doesn't remember that, but that's.
Okay. Anyways, my point is, so I've been here for like a quarter of a century, and I just loved how the community stayed the same. It had this small, close-knit mindfulness with all of my neighbors. I loved how every year there was always Newark Days, and it just brought everybody together. So I didn't notice any change, but the one thing I did notice was our skyrocketing rent prices and housing prices. And as somebody who has been here and somebody who also does live with her grandparents, I just want to state that it's really difficult for somebody in their age to be able to pick up and move, especially when they're on a fixed income. Whereas like somebody like me, I can just go with my dog and move to a new city. But for somebody like them being in their 80s, this is kind of all they know. They've been in Newark for half their lives when prior they were in China. And so I think we do have a duty to keep our senior citizens here and to make sure that they are housed, especially in the one and only community that they've known their whole life. Thank you so much, and I really hope this gets approved.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else in the audience tonight to speak on this item? Okay, City Clerk Harrington, is anybody on Zoom to speak on this item?
No, Your Honor.
No, okay. Okay, so if there's no further comment, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. And comments from the council, anybody? Councilmember Hannan.
I'll defer to Councilmember Coyals because I know she wanted to speak earlier.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Hammond. Thank you, Your Honor. When you were saying something about the brackets, the monthly brackets, set to rent, and then I heard own. Is it are they going to be able to buy their little apartment?
No, it's 100% rental housing.
100% rental.
Yeah.
Okay. I love the way it's the C shape. I love that little terrace up there. I love that the stores, grocery stores, very accessible. Everything else, if they decide to have some nice loud parties out there, nobody's gonna complain. There's no other houses out there. I like that. It's gonna be really open. When we were looking at the pictures for the inside, the restroom, is it roll-in showers? Does that mean you can roll in your resident in a wheelchair?
Yes, so we'll
Because I saw bathtubs.
Yeah, I think we'll likely include maybe like some certain percentage that will have those roll-in showers that will allow you to just roll directly in. Most of the bathrooms will have a tub with all of the grab bars to make it accessible.
I wanted to say that when my father became ill and we had the bathroom remodeled, the shower area is where I could wheel him in his chair and just change him over right over to his shower chair. And that was so wonderful. Now, my father's been gone for 12 years. My mother had a fall in February and fractured her tailbone. Well, she had a hard time getting around. We thought she was getting better, and all of a sudden it's worse. So now, right now, we're wheeling her around in her wheelchair because she doesn't want to move. She doesn't want to walk. And that shower where we wheel her in has been so wonderful. So I just want to make sure that that was going to be available to our citizens. And I want to thank you for working on that so that our residents would have first opportunity. That's what, I was heartbroken when some of them told me they didn't even know about the other one. They never had a chance to apply. And I said, we're going to make sure that you guys have a chance to apply this time. So I want to thank you for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then Councilmember Hannan.
Thank you, Mayor. Eden Housing, welcome to Newark. We're so glad to have you. Affordable housing has been one of our primary goals the last number of years, and to focus on some of the most vulnerable residents in our community, namely our seniors. We thank you for this project. I do have a number of comments and questions. The staff report initially had indicated an 80% AMI. I'm so pleased to hear that you're looking to lower that down to 50%. Again, we need to make sure that we include the most vulnerable in terms of finances as part of this project. As you do your outreach to our community to let them know that they're going to be given an opportunity to have a unit here, please make sure that any of your outreach is in multiple languages, because we have a significant percentage of our community that are Spanish speakers only. We want to make sure we reach out to that community because they'll certainly be desirous of these affordable units. These affordable units, will housing vouchers be allowed to be utilized on behalf of the occupant, as far as you know at this point?
So there is some possibility to apply project-based vouchers in the project, but for most of the units, they won't even require a voucher. Are you familiar with whether they can bring vouchers to the project?
Perfect. Perfect. The parking access, is it a gate over the, that allows cars to close the gate upon entrance so that our seniors feel most secure?
Yes.
Thank you.
Most all the cars will be in the garage behind it. There will be a few that are outside that can be used for drop-off and visitors and things like
Sure.
that. But almost all of them in the whole garage will be secure, as well as there will be cameras throughout the facility on the outside as well that will be viewed over time as well.
One more question on the parking. Would the garage include some number of electric vehicle stations as we transition from gasoline to electric vehicles? I would imagine a number of seniors may have.
And there will be probably a few vehicle stations, plus there'll be others that are pre-wired for the future as well.
Do you know how many stations you might have at this point, or just
I
to be
believe
determined?
actually the new Cal Green State Code requires at least 10%.
The project is six EV spaces are shown on the project plans.
Okay. I appreciate the displacement study that's going to be done. In your other projects in the Fremont Union City, did you utilize the displacement process for those projects? If so, how did that process go, and how was it, what were the final results? Can you comment on that?
So not in Fremont, but we recently just opened, I think we're maybe in the process of leasing a project in Alameda, which uses these A1 funds through the county. And in that project, we did work with the city to prepare a displacement study that was accepted by the county. So there is a live-work preference in that project in Alameda that's currently being leased up.
Thank you. And final question, what was the height of the structure, staff? I can't remember. What, was it 35 feet or is it beyond 35 feet? I know you had that in your slide. I just can't remember.
The conditional use permit is required if it's over 35 feet, but as he's stating, the structure is 50 feet.
It's about 50 feet all
Okay.
told.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the staff report. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Any other questions? Councilmember Bucci?
Thank you, Your Honor. I wanted to talk about the local live-work preference and the displacement study. I know when this came up before, when we did the approval of the funds and things, this was a big deal. And at the time, you know, I stated that, hey, we understand this is a regional issue, we want to do our part, but that we are investing several $1 million of Newark money, and I expect Newark people to be there. So I really thought that the displacement study would have been done beforehand. So I'm kind of curious, because if the displacement, and I am obviously happy to hear that it seems to be working in Alameda, I think that the study is more of just kind of an exercise. I think everybody knows that, you know, seniors and everybody else is being displaced at this point. But if the county doesn't accept the displacement report, then, you know, I'm not going to be happy if 90% of the people there aren't from Newark and we spent several $1 million of our affordable housing money on it. So I guess my question is, if that doesn't come back in our favor, what recourse do we have as a council to then either pull back our funding or, because I mean, we've, you know, obviously this is a serious issue. We need all the Newark affordable housing we can get, but, you know, it's, while I agree that, you know, this is a big issue, you know, I'm here to represent Newark people. And that's all money that we got in our coffers through other
available to be leased at a certain point. And we'll work with Eden to have a marketing plan that we can reach out to our community in case that we're not able to have a local preference policy. But I think that we feel confident that based upon the track record that Eden has with displacement studies, that you know, we will ultimately be successful and allow a Newark preference, Live Work preference to proceed. But plan B is that we can still do heavily marketing to our community and make them aware that these units are available and make sure that people have the opportunity to get in applications as early as possible per the marketing plan. So we'll certainly endeavor to do that.
Mr. Turner, what's the ETA on a displacement study typically?
Yeah, maybe I'll look to Jared, who's done those in the past, to give us some information on that.
In terms of the preparation of the study?
Yeah, I mean, from today, how long could we reliably figure to get a response back from the county? Does it take a year to do the study and get it through the county? And as someone who has to deal with the county quite a bit, I understand how long that can take.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
ballpark.
No, I was actually talking to our consultant who we're working with on the study. So the study itself, less than 6 months to prepare, and then in terms of getting the county to review and approve it, that's probably another 6 months. So
okay.
yeah, probably a year total process, which is, even though it's only, the county approval is only required before construction is completed and the building's actually leased up, which is another, you know, at least 2 years away, which is, but we'll still get started on it now to have it done and approved well ahead of that time.
Okay, thank you. No, I appreciate that. And you know what, I'm looking forward to working with you folks on this and hopefully other projects in the future. It's just, I hope you guys understand that, you know, we're here to represent Newark people, and those are the folks that we should be looking out for first. Okay, just a couple other quick ones since we talked about the wheel-in bathrooms. Are a couple of these units going to be lowered units in the kitchens and things for folks in wheelchairs?
So actually, every kitchen will be adaptable for accessibility, and at least 5% of them will be built out to start with. However, all of them can be adaptable, and there are very rigid requirements around reach and height for the cabinets and the counters and the amount of shelving, and that over 50% of the shelving has to be accessible by somebody in a wheelchair. So there's very detailed design standards around universal design so that it's accessible for all.
Okay, very good.
Including us tall people that are trying to.
Okay, and then last thing, Jessica, I appreciated your comments up here tonight, but I think you were talking about Coach Mike Freitas, who was my coach and baseball coach and stuff at Newark Memorial. So yeah. Shout out to Coach Freitas, wherever he's at. So hell of a baseball player. Yeah. You know, it's funny. His wife was the gymnastics coach over at Washington High School, where my wife went. So we ran into them one time. We were like, "Coach," and my wife went, "Coach," and it was just one of those moments. It was fun. So, all right, thank you.
Now you're serving on the city council together. Amazing.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, for the clarification.
Okay, if there's no further comments, I guess I would just add to the comments made so far that you know, Eden housing certainly has a long, prominent reputation in this field of providing affordable housing in Alameda County. And this just becomes another one of those projects. I think the concern about having our some type of a priority system for Newark residents, I take that to heart, that you know, as much as you can do that, you know, please do it, because that's one of the things we'll be looking for, that you know, that is being done. And you know, other than that, you know, hopefully we'll get a motion here, we'll get passed, and you can be on your way to having a project that will benefit this total community and those needing homes. So with that, no other further comments. I think your council's ready to vote if we get a motion.
I would like to move item E1.
Second.
Okay. Could you, let's see. Yes, start the vote. Oops.
That's our first night. We're going to get there.
Yeah. How come every time I push that thing, it's recused? Okay, I'm stuck here. Oops, there we go. There it is. Okay. Okay, everybody's voted?
I noticed the one button that says hand and still need.
Okay, motion passes 5 ayes. Jessica, they're on their way. Okay, congratulations and good luck to y'all.
Resolution of the City Council of the City of Newark adopting a mitigated negative declaration, amending the Newark General Plan, approving a conditional use permit, plan review to allow a 79-unit affordable housing development, Timber Street Senior Housing, it's 37660 Timber Street, and an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Newark amending the zoning map from RM Residential Medium Density to RH Residential High Density for the property located at 37660 Timber Street.
Okay, thank you. Well, item F is other business. And F.1 is adoption of a resolution approving the City of Newark American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA Recovery Plan. City Manager Benoon.
Yes, good evening, Your Honor, members of the council. As the mayor pointed out, staff's recommendation to adopt the City of Newark American Rescue Plan Act Recovery Plan. If the council may recall, several weeks ago, the council held a work session to discuss how the city should use its allocation of federal funding that were provided through the American Rescue Plan Act. We had an extensive conversation, various proposals were submitted, and council directed city staff to return at a future meeting with a more specific proposal, which is this evening. So just a little bit of background. The council may recall, earlier this year, President Biden signed in the law, ARPA provides $1.9 trillion in federal relief, including $350 billion to state and local governments, and the City of Newark's allocation is $11.8 million. The objectives of ARPA, in a nutshell, they're up there on the screen. 5 primary objectives. The first one, to support public health expenditures to the extent that government agencies incurred costs directly combating this pandemic. Those costs are reimbursable and recoverable. Includes medical expenses, public health and safety staff costs, as well as behavioral health costs. Second category of eligible costs, negative economic impacts. To the extent that the pandemic has had an adverse and disproportionate impact on various sectors of the economy, ARPA funds could be used to address those impacts. Third category would be replacement of lost public sector revenue. Basically, governments would be allowed to replenish any lost revenue that were caused by the pandemic. Fourth category is premium pay for essential workers. Basically, governments would be allowed to use these monies to pay for any private sector wages above and beyond what employees already receive. And then the last category up there is water, sewer, broadband infrastructure, basically to improve access to support vital infrastructure. And for our purposes, this would include broadband infrastructure. And just a friendly reminder, ARPA funds specifically exclude these categories of items. deposits to pension funds, deposits to reserves, payment for interest or principal on outstanding debt, payment of legal judgments, or any offsets to revenue loss stemming from a tax cut. The council may recall our allocation's $11.8 million, and these funds can be used through December 31st, 2024, to the extent that you have costs incurred during that time period, and they may be expended for any projected costs after that date up through December of 2026. A little bit of a calendar here. We received our mid-July, we received our first one-half allocation, $5.9 million. We anticipate receiving our second half in summer of 2022. These funds, again, can be used through December 31st of 2024, as well as December 31st of 2026. First quarterly project and expenditures are due March 31st of 2022. I think that deadline was recently extended by federal law. And just to refresh the council's recollection, we had a council work session back on October 7th. At that work session, this is what the draft ARPA funding plan that staff presented. It's up here on the screen. As you can see, allocates $3.9 million for revenue replacement, specifically to personnel budget restoration. Includes restoration of 7 employees, which I'll go over in a moment. $900,000 to be used again for revenue replacement. This is to restore the city's non-personnel operating budget for 1 year only. The remaining balance, which is approximately $7 million, being proposed to use for various projects that are listed there on the screen, including $1.3 million to Newark Family Resource Center, including programming associated with that for bilingual preschool, promotorist training and teen program. That also includes $250,000 in capital costs to rehabilitate the former Head Start building there. $1.5 million in affordable housing project, $1.5 million for small business grants, $280,000 for Chamber of Commerce assistance, $150,000 for Old Town Newark business assistance, $100,000 for Old Town facade improvements, $1 million for broadband infrastructure. That's related to the item below it, which is $200,000 for the master plan. So this would essentially be $200,000 to do an inventory and study of what is the city's existing infrastructure in terms of broadband, and then potential implementation of that master plan up to $1 million. There's also $250,000 for community development public outreach software. This would allow us to better serve the public for community development types of projects. Obviously, with the pandemic, remote, it's very appropriate given the circumstances in terms of everything being done remotely nowadays. Also allocates $300,000 for nonprofit agencies, and we have $100,000 reserved for administrative costs, including staff time, as well as any third-party consultant costs. And then finally, $210,000 for child care and recreation programming scholarships, and then finally $10,000 for COVID vaccine incentives. Just to highlight here, again, about 41% of the proposed plan, about $4.8 million, specifically allocated for budget restoration, and the remaining balance, almost $7 million, which reflects 59% of the plan, would be used for various community projects. The frozen positions that would be restored if the council took action this evening would be those up on the screen. Again, these positions were frozen at the onset of the pandemic as a result of budget cuts in the face of declining revenues. That would be accountant, aquatic activity specialist, community preservation manager, 2 general laborers, human resources technician, a plan check engineer, and then the senior planner. And just as a reminder, that position was recently unfrozen a few months ago by virtue of council action, but it would be eligible to be expensed through ARPA under federal law. In terms of staff's recommendation, we feel that restoring these positions would address critical needs of the city. It would return the city to pre-pandemic service levels, which is certainly desired by staff. Fiscal year 2021, we do anticipate a $5.5 million surplus. Again, this is before contributions to reserves. However, as explained in detail at the last work session, for next fiscal year, staff is projecting a $1.75 million deficit. I caution that the $5.5 million surplus is unaudited at this point in time, and those numbers will slightly change, but those are estimates as we sit here today. Staff's recommendation is to use ARPA funds to pay for these critical positions. The theory here would be to essentially allow the general fund to grow over the next 3 years, and then at that point, the city would be in a better position, financially speaking, to absorb those operating costs, and we absorb in the city's budget at that time, assuming again that there's a desire on behalf of the city to maintain that service level at that time. $905,000 for non-personnel operating costs. This is essentially travel, training, supplies, and contractual services. It'd be spread about throughout all the departments. Staff doesn't recommend fully funding all those costs at this point. We have some uncertainty how those monies will be fully spent. Contractual services could always be potentially absorbed by the city's general fund down the line. And then we also don't know what the actuals would be. Once we go through this process, we'll have a better idea in terms of how much money we'll actually spend under this ARPA plan. So we didn't want to overreach at this point. Staff feels that the proposed ARPA plan is an elegant plan in a sense that it provides a wide array of benefits to the community. It addresses all the various sectors of the community that were adversely and disproportionately impacted by the pandemic, and those are there on the screen, and it provides responses to those impacts. The first one being social services and mental health. Response to that would be the creation of a Newark Family Resource Center, along with the programming associated with it. Those facing language barriers, we have the Promotores program for children, bilingual preschool, as well as a teen program. For businesses, $1.5 million for small business grant, in addition to Chamber of Commerce assistance. For those who are constrained by unacceptable broadband speeds, we have $200,000 towards a broadband master plan, along with $1 million for potential implementation. And then lastly, we have monies dedicated and allocated towards housing, which is obviously a pressing issue, especially given what we just discussed a moment ago. I note that any ARPA plan that the council adopts should be something that's considered subject to change. It's a fluid document. As time goes on, we'll get more information, numbers will change, circumstances will change, and essentially every time that we touch the budget, staff recommends we also discuss where we're at in terms of actuals. To the extent that some of these things come in lower than projected, monies could be allocated for other purposes. So this is an evolving document that we're just not going to put on a shelf after it's adopted. It's something that we should continually to review and reassess. Again, those are the time periods up there for the eligible costs, which underscore the importance of coming back and reviewing this from time to time. To further illustrate the need to revisit, I'd like to point out that there is an interim final rule that's out right now. It's interim, so it's not final. A little bit oxymoronic to say interim final, but in any event. So that final rule should come out at some point. Hoping it would come out a few weeks ago or a month or so ago. May not be several months until that final rule does come out. We have two resolutions prepared for your consideration this evening. The first one does deal specifically with two Old Town Newark projects. Get to those in a moment. And then the other ones would be for the balance of the plan. We segregated it out in light of conflicts of interest. So, in terms of specific action taken this evening, staff recommends doing the following. The first one basically is an adoption of kind of a policy statement. Here you go, here's the Newark ARPA recovery plan with 39% being allocated to restoring and replacing the budget, the remaining 61% being allocated, excuse me, I think it was it 39 and 61? 41 and 59, that's what it was, sorry. 59 being dedicated for specific projects. We have an appropriation of $3.9 million to restore those frozen positions, as well as appropriation for $900,000 for the non-personnel operating costs. The fourth and fifth columns are specific appropriations for those particular programs. So the resolution does contain appropriation for the Family Resource Center programming costs, bilingual programming costs, Promotores programming costs, as well as the teen program. specifically excludes the capital costs associated with the building conversion for Head Start to the Resource Center. And that's essentially because we would have to come back for project approvals with the contractors and all that. We don't want to allocate the money at this point in time until we have a specific idea as to how much this would cost. We also have appropriation of $210,000 for child care and recreation programs. The remaining balance of the programs we don't recommend that you appropriate funds for those at this point in time because a lot of these programs will require further council consideration. We're gonna have to come back with parameters on the small business grant program, Old Town Facade program, all those items that are not here on this slide here. We would essentially have to come back for either council review of that contract, so we'll have a better idea as to specifically how much money we will expend, or number one, and number two, in a lot of these circumstances, we're gonna need some council direction in terms of the parameters of the specific projects, like the small business grants, nonprofit grants, things of that nature. The resolution does contain authority for the city manager to reappropriate funds among approved projects. This would be some flexibility in case something comes in lower. We can pay it and then come back, or excuse me, assign those funds to something else if there's a shortfall somewhere. All right. And I think this slide essentially just says what I just said. All these other remaining projects require further council discussion. And again, we need to really see what those project costs are before we specifically allocate those funds. So that's the ARPA plan that we have prepared for your consideration this evening. In light of the conflicts, Your Honor, I would suggest and recommend that we consider the first resolution, which is specifically allocating the money towards the Old Town projects. I would recommend we address those matters first. After we deliberate on those items, come back and review the remaining balance of the plan.
Okay, so I guess under F1 at this time, I would ask anybody in the audience if they have any comments to make.
We have to recuse ourselves, Your Honor.
Oh, okay.
So with that, Your Honor, I recuse myself
Okay.
because I have business and real property interest in Mexico Tortilla Factory at 7015 Thornton Avenue, properties at 7155, 7167, and 7179 Thornton Avenue, and a residential property at 36805 Magnolia.
Okay.
And Your Honor, also myself, I have to be recused because at this time I'm on a property at 37220 Magnolia Street, apartments A through E, 7968-7972 Thornton Avenue, and 37082 Spruce Street, apartments A through C.
Okay.
So we just.
So you both are recused, and if you leave the room.
Okay, good for the boys.
Okay.
With the ashtrays.
Yeah, that'll get a nice full area.
I'm not rich enough to ever have to recuse myself.
Yeah.
So, Your Honor, the first item, the first proposed resolution would specifically allocate the sum of $150,000 towards Old Town Newark business assistance, and then $100,000 for Old Town facade improvements. This is not an appropriation of funds. We'll have to come back and review these programs, but essentially this would be an adoption of the ARPA plan as a policy statement for those two projects.
Okay. Okay, so again, anybody in the audience like to speak on this item? And City Clerk Harrington, anybody at home to speak on this item?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, then council's pleasure. Yes, question?
Quick question for staff, just to clarify, since we had a council member recuse themselves and we're about to approve $150,000 in Old Town Newark business assistance, would the council member be able to apply for that? I feel like that's a question for the lawyer.
Is your question with regards to both programs or one in particular?
Well, the Old Town facade improvements is more of, an infrastructure upgrade, but the business assistance sounds more like direct payments. So I guess that's my question.
The Old Town Newark Business Assistance is for a third party to come in and give business assistance that is to that particular entity. Perhaps Mr. Turner can kind of give a brief overview of that program.
That's correct. That program would provide consultation services and advice about how to operate your small business in terms of financing and looking forward and financial planning and things like that. It would not involve direct payments of grants or other funds as part of that program. It's merely advice and consultation.
Well, I figure we'll be doing our part to make sure there's no conflict, but I just wanted to make sure that it was stated for anybody who might be watching and other things.
Yeah, certainly, Mr. Vice Mayor. We do evaluate these particular circumstances pretty closely. So if there was an application or a request, we would evaluate under the government code to see if it created a conflict under those circumstances. And if it did, we would not enter into that agreement.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Mayor, may I follow up on that?
Yes, Councilmember Han.
So thank you, City Attorney, for that opinion. What I'm hearing you say is that if we approve the Old Town facade improvement, that in and of itself does not preclude any council member that has recused himself from participating in that grant process.
It may. Under some circumstances, the Government Code 1090 prohibits public officials from entering into contracts with the city. So there are some exceptions under Government Code 1090. So we would just have to evaluate that. I do know that the FPPC opined under some circumstances related to COVID relief, that because that was a benefit that was provided to similarly situated entities throughout the city, that it wasn't, there was an exception, and that the process for administering those programs wasn't a council decision, it was a staff level decision. So there was the issue of self-dealing, if you will, wasn't really present. But we would have to just evaluate this very carefully and perhaps even seek FPPC advice.
Thank you for that opinion. Mayor, I'll go ahead and recommend that we approve those two items as presented by staff.
I will second it.
Okay, please vote. Okay, motion passes, 3 ayes and 2 recused.
Resolution of the City Council of the City of Newark approving the American Rescue Plan Act Recovery Plan for Old Town Newark and amending 2022 biennial budget and capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2022.
Okay.
So did our resolution include free tamales? I can't remember that.
Always includes free tamales.
Okay.
And then a second resolution has been prepared that would address the remaining balance of the plan.
Okay, so that's the second resolution. So then I would ask if anybody in the audience to speak on that. Okay, City Clerk Harrington, anybody at home to speak on the second resolution?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, then council's pleasure on the second resolution.
So now we can vote, right?
I had some questions, Mayor.
Yes, question? Yes.
Mr. Benoon, you mentioned the redistribution of some funds. Would that be something that at some point you would advise the council as to that redistribution? Thank you. The affordable housing, 1.5 million, is that a specific project or is that a distribution of funds to folks that are struggling to pay rent? I'm assuming it's a project-specific allocation.
That's correct. It would be a specific project. We're reviewing one right now. If that item becomes ripe for council consideration, then those monies could potentially be allocated towards that specific project.
And then finally, Mayor, what an outstanding job by the city staff in this regard. We have touched every segment of our society. We've touched seniors, teens, children, the business community, residential community. What an outstanding job of making sure that we have equitably distributed these funds so all members of our community have an opportunity to participate and to benefit. So thank you for the outstanding work.
Okay. Any other comments? If not, I assume you're ready to vote. Please start voting.
Your Honor,
I'll make a motion, Mayor, that we pass the remaining items as recommended by staff.
Okay. And is there a
Second.
Okay, now vote. Okay, motion passes, 5 ayes.
Resolution of the City Council of the City of Newark approving the American Rescue Plan Act Recovery Plan and amending the 2020-2022 biennial budget and capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2022.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that ends other business. Takes us to item G, City Council matters. And I would ask tonight that the council close our meeting, recognizing in honor of former building mechanic Bob Souza, who passed away over the weekend as a result of a brain tumor that he battled courageously for several years. Bob worked for the city for about 14 years and retired as a senior building mechanic in 2015. Bob was a Pride Award recipient in 2008 for his efforts and assistance with the Solomon Center preschool staff, and Bob helped maintain and operate 250,000 square feet of public buildings, creating a safe environment for employees and citizens, and took great pride in his work. Our sincere condolences to Bob's family. And with that, I'll ask Councilmember Collazo if you have any comments.
I was in La La Land, sorry, Your Honor. I just wish everybody a happy and safe Halloween and a very festive Dia de los Muertos, which is on November 1st. All Souls Day, November 1st, All Souls Day, which is when we celebrate children, and November 2nd is when we celebrate the adults. So, and shop Newark.
There you go. Okay. Councilmember Freitas.
Well, thank you, Your Honor.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, I'd like to thank my colleagues to allow me to move the resolution B1 accepting the conclusion of the final construction of this building, the 3 individual buildings. I guess because I'm the most senior council member after the mayor, and they allowed me to do that, and I have some residential construction experience, but I appreciated the symbolism of them to allow me to do that, because to be on the record. So thank you, my colleagues, because I was not trying to rush anything, but it happened to, so appreciated that, the confidence on that. And also I'd like to, Your Honor, to extend the deepest sympathy to Bob Souza, because I knew Bob Souza when he was working here, so deepest sympathies to the family. And I had a few questions for Mr., if the city manager allowed, for the public directors. Very simple questions, but it's pretty much along Cedar Boulevard. No, you can be seated, but it's, I noticed lately, it's the Civic Terrace street that's coming up for repaving, because it's quite a few potholes there lately along from between Cedar and Newark Boulevard. And along the same question, I guess it's PG&E doing trench less along Civic Terrace and other streets. PG&E responsible, or do the paving, how that will be working? Because
Yeah,
we see a few complaints on that too, sir.
Thank you for the question, Councilmember Freitas. There is work taking place on Civic Terrace Avenue, underground utility work. It is either PG&E or fiber optic installation along Civic Terrace. Now, they are responsible for restoration of pavement for any of the work taking place. Staff will determine the extent of pavement restoration associated with the permit. That, it really is dependent on the level of damage resulting from from the activity taking place under the encroachment permit.
Yeah,
that's
because it
issued.
looks like the same
And
company.
so for Civic Terrace, it's not part of this year's pavement maintenance program. I think it is coming up in the next couple of years in our regular cycle of pavement maintenance. It's not far off. But that's not planned for this year. We'll evaluate it with the encroachment permit in terms of the extent of damage associated with
Yeah,
the work
because
taking
some
place.
on the middle, because it's 2 lanes on the middle, it's pretty much a few potholes there and it's getting larger day by day. So special between on the west side, if you will, close to Cedar. So you should be look at it.
Right, I know there's been work taking place out there for
Yeah,
quite a while.
okay.
So engineering staff will be working with the encroachment permit applicant to resolve all that pavement restoration.
Thank you. And also on Cedar Boulevard by Prima, I guess they are working, doing the landscaping on both sides of the street now.
Yeah, so there is that segment of landscaping that wasn't finalized because of the break for the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission right of way. That scope of work is scheduled to be completed here in the next several weeks. The landscaping as well as pavement resurfacing on Cedar Boulevard for the full extent of the Prima project frontage. And the portion of Cedar Court,
they've been
as part of
working
that
there.
project, is there'll be some patch paving and then pavement grinding and a pavement overlay on the portion of Cedar Court adjacent to the residential subdivision.
Now, where's Prima connect to Cedar, just in front, will be some island there also when the street be redone, because it's this week or the last couple of weeks been happened on it there on a lot just in front, because it's in between the 2 islands, one farther east and one farther west. I don't know.
Yeah, so the project didn't include additional raised medians on Cedar Boulevard there. We can certainly look at that as a long-term improvement.
It's very.
I've noticed some of that out there.
You noticed that
yeah,
too,
as
so,
it's a wider open space. But that is not part of the scope of improvements that Prima is completing.
And if we're going down, is that gas station on Maury Avenue across from the mall? It'll be, I guess it's gone completely.
Reopening.
Reopening? Okay, I got the answer from the mayor. Okay, so it says an assistant. The last 2 questions.
You're gonna pay for these last 2, you know.
Okay, okay, sir. Is this in front of the city hall, the new entrance? It's a temporary barricade there. It's a neat thing. We expect it to be cameo. That's
Yeah.
it's just for the car.
The plan is to install some permanent bollards at that location. I think we had an issue or two with
People
folks
wanna
maybe
jump.
viewing that as a driveway. So that's just a temporary measure to.
And the last question is, we have a huge storm over the weekend, but your 2, I guess, general laborers driving the sweepers. Before 7 o'clock on Monday, they left the yard with the 2 sweepers to clean the streets. So kudos to your people because they was doing a superb job. I guess they last all day until late on the day because I catch the 2 sweepers out on the streets. So.
Thank you for recognizing, our maintenance division staff did yeoman's work, really in advance of
Kudos
the
to
storm
them
and over the course of the weekend.
The 2 sweepers was out all day long on
We had a lot
Monday
of folks
for that,
out.
so thank you. For the safety of the people, so the residents of Newark, the sweepers was working all day. Thank you.
Thank you. Our police department and public works maintenance staff did a great job over the weekend.
Very much. Thank you, Ron. Time is up.
Okay. Let's see, I forgot where I was now. Oh, Councilmember Hannon.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make my comments brief.
Brief, I don't know what that word is.
I'm gonna just marvel at sitting here in our new council chambers. I feel like a young kid that's gone to my first baseball game in a brand-new stadium, and our team just won. And I'm sitting there in the stands, just kind of taking in the feeling of the grass and the ambiance of being in the ballpark. That's kind of the feeling I have sitting here in this council chambers. It's something that we really are and should be proud of. all the amenities that we've provided to our community. Just in the last few years, I had the opportunity to walk by the soccer fields, and they're just pristine soccer fields. The skateboard park, I mean, the dog park, to which we had an event this last weekend. There's so many things that we have provided to our community, and I know the staff has done the majority of the work around that, but it's really our council that has listened to our community, taken in their input, and has been able to provide these amenities on time, on budget. And so I'm really proud to be able to say that I was a part of this city council when all these things were taking place. So thank you again, staff, for all the good work that you did. I just had one quick question, Mr. Benoon, and you may or may not be able to answer this. I know they had a free vaccination at the library today. I'm hopeful that it was well attended, but maybe you have some thoughts on that. And I would certainly encourage all of our residents, especially our young folks, that if you haven't been vaccinated, please do so. It's really for the betterment of your family and our community. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And Vice Mayor Bucci.
Did you answer?
Oh, thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to start by also passing on my condolences to Souza, the Souza family, and especially for Bob. He was a heck of a guy. I had the opportunity to meet him a number of times before I even became a council member, so it was definitely sad to hear that. Councilmember Hannon mentioned the dog event this weekend, so I just wanted to congratulate staff, especially our rec department, on a job well done. Unfortunately, 2 years ago, right when the pandemic started, we were going to cut the ribbon on the dog park, and it never happened, so it was almost like the first kind of event we got to have there, a grand opening 2 years late, if you will, but it was a lot of fun, and I think everybody who came out definitely had a good time. City Hall, it's good to be back, right? It's good to be in here. We are open. And so is the library. The library opened this last week, and we had the Newark room open. It's a little satellite library, but it is fully open now, and I see librarian Joe had already headed out, but they did a great job getting everything over there and transferred. And like we said before, there's a whole lot more than just moving books that went into that place. So if you haven't had the chance, go and check that out. The police station's open as well. I encourage you not to go and check that out. And then just, happy Halloween last year. I think a lot of the kids were bummed out because we couldn't go out, but Dr. Fauci is saying, hey, you know what? Wear your mask, be outside. We should be good to go trick-or-treating. And the Bucci's give out big candy bars at their house, so be sure to come by on Sunday. All right, thank you, sir.
Okay, item H is closed session, and H.1 is a conference with legal counsel on existing litigation pursuant to California Government Code Section 54956.9D1. Name of the case is Kovac Atticelli, City of Newark, Workers' Compensation, Appeals Board numbers ADJ 119999350 and ADJ 119999328 and ADJ 1199368. And after the closed session, we will be adjourning in recognition of Bob Souza. So with that, we will now adjourn to closed session.